Existing home sales data are out this morning. Sales fell sharply in March as buyers and sellers have been forced to stay socially distanced. Joining us now to discuss is Cortland Chief Economist Brad Dillman. Brad, good to see you. We'd love to get your thoughts right off the top on the home sales data.
Well, that's right. It is down 5.27 million in March. That's down 8.5% from February. The interesting thing here, though, is actually still up slightly year over year. Going into the spring, I think a lot of folks had been expecting a very strong spring selling season for housing. And this hiccup, while it has hit and it is visible now in home sales, and is probably only the beginning of a couple of months of a temporary slowdown, has still actually performed relatively well.
Yeah, Brad, I mean, this is supposed to be the spring buying season when people can go out and take advantage of these low mortgage rates that we've been enjoying. We're seeing inventories continue to get squeezed. They were squeezed before this pandemic. Talk to me about right now, because I see in this latest report the number of homes for sale in March plunged more than 10% from a year ago.
That's right. So you're seeing the number of listings actually just continue to fall. This has been a longer-term trend in the United States since the Great Recession, so I don't think that that's entirely unsurprising. I think the real thing that is surprising here is actually kind of how well this held up, given the social distancing measures that were in effect in March. And like I suggested, I think this is only the beginning of what will be a slowdown in existing home sales. The real question is going to be just when they can bounce back based on when we get back to work as normal.
Brad, how severe is that downturn?
That's a great question. That really depends on how long we're going to be locked up, so to speak. Here in Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp has suggested that we may be back to work as soon as this Friday in some sectors. We at Cortland have been running a variety of models to estimate just how bad economic conditions may be if the lockdown persists too long. But as it relates to existing home sales, and I think other economists may agree on this, we're looking at a situation in the United States where we are undersupplied today when it comes to housing. That's very different than the situation we were in when we went into the downturn in the GFC. And so I think regardless of what happens in labor markets, we may see housing perform a little bit better than some suspect. Most of this undersupply in housing today, that's by my estimate and by the estimate of others such as Freddie Mac, is in fact on the single family side. And so the pent up demand for single family, the undersupply of owned housing is something that will work to the benefit of home prices. And in fact, when we look at this most recent data, we can see volume down in all four regions, but pricing was still up.
Brian, we haven't talked much about this so far, but what about home builder bankruptcies? They're sweeping the retail sectors, they're sweeping small businesses. But if there's no spring buying season, should investors be concerned on that front too?
Yeah, I think for smaller home builders, this is definitely going to be a challenge. If we look at the bigger home builders, the publicly traded home builders, their balance sheets are such that this is going to be less of an issue for them. But I think a lot of smaller home builders, say groups that have just started within the last few years, are definitely going to face a challenge with this. Ultimately, the would-be homeowner is going to face a challenge with this. As you know, we are in an undersupplied market as it is. Even listed inventory continues to fall, and now we're in a position where new starts are likely to fall as well. So that's not a great position for the would-be home buyer and the ultimate end user of housing.
Brian, do you have Brad, do you have any idea how things are on the ground right now in terms of people trying to go out and look at homes? I mean, it's tough to make the largest purchase of your life sight unseen. Are people signing deals without ever having to actually go and check out a property?
So the NAR report actually did reference this, and we've seen this on the for rent side as well. So virtual tours where you might have a pre-recording, say if it's a new home sales community, you could pre-record a tour of these communities of the homes that tend to look similar. And you can do this in multifamily as well, but now we're beginning to see virtual live tours. So you can imagine somebody walking around with an iPad to give somebody the tour of a property. So I think that the industry is making steps in that direction. Whether that's really moving the needle is tough to say. And perhaps the figures in March will give us a real indication of just how impactful COVID has been on the existing home sales market.
All right, let's leave it there. Brad Dillman, Cortland Chief Economist. Stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.